taking a look at Aqueduct, the Red Smith, the Chaluki down at Churchill, the Kennedy Road, and the Bessarabian out at Woodbine this upcoming Saturday afternoon. And you ready to kick it off?
Let's do it, yeah.
All right, let's get into the Red Smith at Aqueduct. Grade 3 event, $100,000 up for grabs for 3-year-olds and up, going a mile and 3/8 on the grass. And I pulled up a replay here of Red Knight winning the Sycamore. And what is interesting to me with this replay that we're going to take a look at, Red Knight's going to be the number 2 horse. Bill Mott trainee. James Graham was on board this day, again, down at Keeneland back in the middle of October. And what was interesting to me, the fractions, 51, 116, 204, 228 for the mile and a half. And he cleared those fractions. Again, Red Knight, the number 2 horse. And I think that's going to be the game plan again on Saturday in the Smith, because I just don't see a whole lot of pace in here. I think you're going to have a horse who can kind of sit and be not too far out of it and then make that run into probably another kind of pedestrian pace. So I'll put him on top. Sadler's Joy, I think, is always a solid tender. Comes off the nice high buyer in the Turf Classic behind Channel Maker, who has now strung together a few good races. And so no shame in losing to Chinker. Sadler's Joy, though, 3 starts back, nice win in the Bowling Green at Saratoga, where he kind of sat, back in the back of the pack of a 6-horse field, but it was into slower fractions. Aquaphobia is interesting to me. Showed a little punch last time, but punch with those slow fractions to things up in the Sycamore for Red Knight. But you always have to be leery of the horse that may get out there and set the slow pace and keep going. And I thought North Dakota at a 10-1 price. If you're looking for an alternative for maybe a little bit of a long shot, Dakota 10-1 on the morning line from Shug. Interesting to me. There are my thoughts.
And the odds for the race in the Red Smith, the Grade 3 event at Aqueduct, showroom can actually play, because I like a horse out of that race. That wasn't Red Knight, who was the eventual winner at Key. To me, is interesting. He's 9-2. The of the three in here, obviously 6-1. I thought Zayed coming back over. He's been a horse that's predominantly been overseas, and he's the number 10 here. Your eventual winner, the horse that you like, is Red Knight, who's the 2, getting a better trip that day. Now Zayed going 3 turns drew the not contagious spot of drawing the outside. So when they weren't, he was wide. He wide almost about 4 wide, and he was sort of sitting just outside of Red Knight. And when they both went to make their move around the far turn, which is going to be prior to obviously the stretch run that you're seeing, Red Knight was just able to the spot was needed, and ultimately Zayed ended up just missing second that day, as you just saw in the replay. But if you go back and take a look at his European form, he faced the likes of Anthony Van Dyke, who was 3rd last year in the Breeders' Cup. He faced Stradivarius 2 back in that race at Longchamp, that Group 2. Stradivarius is a 2-time Group 1 winner this year, and he was only a couple lengths off of him. You dig a little bit deeper, he's faced a horse named Way to Paris, who was only a neck off of that horse, who just ran in the Arc. Way to Paris just ran. He's faced some really good competition. If it wasn't for the outside post, I think at Keeneland he would have run a much better race. Not sure if he still would be at night. That's a debatable argument that he can have back and forth with some people. But to me, he draws a better post. It's going to be second time in North America. Obviously, coming over from Europe, maybe he needed 1 in that race and the outside post. But I think Zayed at 9-2 is going to offer terrific. I'm hoping that it stays. And Manica was aboard him for the first time down at Keeneland. Now he reunites at Aqueduct. So in that last race, and when able, because he seems to be more of a push button type horse, so he's got to be able to time it all up and go in the mile and 3/8. We'll ultimately see, but Zayed's going to be my key horse in this spot underneath the 2 logicals, the 10 and the 4. But like you said, if you're looking for a long shot, and a lot of times in our stakes previews, we like to give you a long shot in here. I'm right on board with you. I think North Dakota is a whole. If you're looking at me in the Sadler's Joy department, he probably is going to go off at 8-5, which is he is on the morning line. But I'm a little bit against him in this spot. He's got the class, and he's clearly the class of the field. But like you said, the pace doesn't look to be very fast. He's a horse that likes to come out of it. He loves to run in money, but as far as winning goes, he's 0 for 7 so far this year. So really tough for me at anything under 2-1 to really fall in love with him. Doesn't mean he can't win. Doesn't mean on his best day he can't absolutely bury this field. But for me, I thought a couple others were interesting, and for that play, I thought North Dakota was the play. And then for me, as far as a win candidate went, I had it 9-2. So 8, 10, 4, and 5 for my official 1, 2, 3, 4 pick.
Promo a little bit as we take this. We're scheduled to have Tom Alvitrani on Racing Across America on Saturday morning, so keep that in mind as well. Trainer of Sadler's Joy. All right, let's move on to the Chaluki at Churchill Downs. Grade 3 event, $100,000 grabs for the Fillies and Mares going the one-turn mile. We each have a replay in here, and since I started off the last segment, I know you like a little price in here perhaps, and so I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the race is going to go through finite. It's 8-5 on the morning line. You'll see the odds come up here in a second, and for me, I kind of like Risky Manic in this spot. And he's she is a horse that's shown some potential throughout the career. Form had kind of went a little bit sour 2 and 3 back, but she was facing good competition, including Monomoy Girl, and we all know how good she is. So you can pretty much draw a line through that race. They tried her at a mile and 8. That is the horse I'm talking about, mile and 16. She doesn't seem to be a 2-turn horse. They cut her back to 1 turn, going 7 furlongs at Keeneland, and that's the race you're going to see now as I do bring up my replay. They did it in a different fashion. They decided to go to the lead. Was 1-2 on the day, so they just might have thought Tom Amis would have just said, you know what, we're the best in the field. Let's just go to the lead. We'll see what the pace develops in here. The one on the inside is going to get a little bit of a challenge in here from Club Power, who eventually finishes second in this shot. But for me, Risky Mandate in a different dimension, or as far as pace development goes, is a horse that normally like to sit off. I think they're going to try to go to the lead in the Chaloki in this spot, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of here to be overly fast. You are going to see some speed, who does look to be a logical contender, but if they decide to go to the front again, I think the stretch out to a mile, the extra furlong, I don't think it's going to be a concern. And take a look at the workout patterns since that win. 59 Churchill, first of 35, and then on November 2nd, another bullet first of 2. Maybe the light bulb just came back on, and of the other alternatives in here besides the 2 heavy favorites and the 2 and the 3, I think Risky Mandate on the best day could easily get the job done, and I'm hoping that the 5-1 price is going to hold in here. Underneath the 2 and the fine bang up race, I know you're going to talk about that Raven Run, and that's going to be a replay of yours, so I won't talk too much about it, but clearly on her best to be the class of the field and easily the winner. The price isn't going to wow anybody. It's probably be 6-5, 7-5 in that range, because she did run really well in that Ravens Run last time out. Ever in the second spot. The 3, the Bill Mott horse in here, it's done nothing wrong in 4 career starts. Last time out was a close-up third behind Venetian Harbor and Finite. And then the 4, as far as maybe another wild card horse in here besides the 2 and the 3. Whoa Nelly hasn't seen since running a couple down at Oaklawn. Hasn't been seen since February, so that's going to be a little bit of concern. But this horse was in dynamite form, 9 for 10 in the money, 5 victories. So another one to look at in here, 6, 2, 3, and 4. And I know you have a replay you want to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's hard to get past Finite if she runs back to that last race. But it was a lifetime best buyer figure. When I first looked at the race, I was going to go with Grand Cru Class A. Who finished just behind Finite. But we'll look at the stretch run. And when you look at that, Finite just looks so good here. Venetian Harbor is going to be the number 5 horse and just got loose on the lead. But watch number 4, Finite, number 9, Class A. And as I said, I originally thought go with the Mott horse, Grand Class A, but watch Finite come up the inside here, and just, boy, that's a nice run, and she just can't get to the loose on the lead winner. But again, lifetime best buyer. Can she string a couple together like that? If she does, she's the one to beat. I include Class A underneath. I'm with you. Whoa Nelly is interesting to me, but hasn't been seen since Oaklawn. I have a couple that are interesting if you want to play around with prices. My 4th spot, I have a 2-3 My 4th spot is Unique Factor. Last time this horse was seen at Churchill was in June. It was a nice win. laid off late summer, early fall, not a long layoff, but came back in a stakes race at Keeneland last time and ran a good second. And gets united with Corey Lannery. Lannery is on horses at Churchill, so I think he gives horses a little bit of a boost. You get 10-1 unique factor, and I think Gold Standard from Brad Cox, who is 2 for 3 over the Churchill strip at 15-1. Maybe another that is an interesting long shot to play around with. But again, if Finite runs back to that, it's just tough. I mean, visually,
and even validate, because you only, again, we're showing you the sort of the far turn stretch runs of these races. Finite was in between horses down the backstretch, if you watch earlier in that race, and she was not in the best spot. They didn't go quick. Obviously, going 7 furlongs with 23 flat, 46, that's not flying. So she ended up doing the best running clearly of that field. Now, I guess it's really debatable on how well you think Venetian Harbor, how well you think of Venetian Harbor, because Venetian Harbor to me, off that 8th place finish in the Breeders' Cup is something, maybe you could kind of go back and forth on the race, but clearly I thought finding the best race in the
Venetian Harbor, in her defense, though, is on the lead in this Raven run. She wasn't going to get loose with Gamine.
Oh, is that, no, agreed.
In the Breeders' Cup. So I didn't, you could look at that as kind of unflattering. I look kind of, I think Venetian Harbor is okay, particularly that day where she was loose on the lead. So, but it'll be interesting how it plays out for Finite, because as I say, you could go either way, given that was a lifetime best buyer last time.
And the last question about that race is she came from far back in that race in the Raven Run, but normally she seems to be a lot closer. I expect her to be probably 2nd or 3rd in a race that doesn't seem to have an abundance of speed, because I like Risky Mandate, who's going to have some who's going to be forwardly placed in that race, and I think Finite maybe just be sitting right off of her hips. So it'll be interesting to see how the pace develops in that race.
All right, let's move on to a couple of stakes up at Woodbine on a day where they have a few stakes, and we'll take a look first at the Kennedy Road. This one's just going to be interesting because Pink Lloyd is in here. What a horse for Robert Tiller. We talked to the trainer up at Woodbine when we made visits up there, and talked about this horse. 26 wins in 31 starts, $1.5 million. Won this race last year. I put Pink Lloyd on top, but my replay, I thought, if you're going to take a pop against Pink Lloyd and maybe in some of the horizontals, if you're looking for a better price, I put Ride a Comet underneath and Silent Poet, but they're 5-2 and 2-1. I wanted to pull up a replay of the Mark Cassie trainee going back to October 4th in an allowance optional claimer. This is going to be the number 8 Super Stonehenge, getting it done pretty nicely for Mark Cassie and Live Oak Plantation. Again, number 8 in here. This, is an allowance optional claimer, so now steps into stakes company. But off of this win, probably has to step it up a little bit against this crew. But again, if you're looking around for a price in this race, this is again, I have this one down in the 4th spot, but with the 20-cent increment on the pick bets, maybe one toss in, and if something does fart, Super Stonehenge could be the interesting play. But just on sentimental value, Pink Lloyd has been so much fun to watch over the past few years. I put that one on 10, then the 2 logical contenders right underneath. But Super Stonehenge, I just found is maybe an interesting alternative in the Kennedy Road.
Yeah, to 4-7, 2 and 5, like you said, just an unbelievable horse in Pink Lloyd. I mean, just statistically, you don't see this in horse racing. 26 for 31, 10 for 10 in the last 2 years, because you draw a line through the non-starter in the bold venture up at Woodbine. I believe we were up there that day.
We were
when we were up there on our Woodbine trip for the Woodbine Mile.
Robert Tiller not very happy with Eureka de Silva that day.
Yeah. I remember. I vaguely remember that. He broke through the gate. Yeah. And it was a little revved up. 19 for 20 at the distance. Just a really cool horse. But I will say, there are a couple really solid horses coming into this that may give Pink Lloyd some fits, including the 4 who I like in here. Silent Poet is looking for 3 in a row. Big question mark. A lot of the running and the really good form's been on turf. Now going synthetic is only 1 for 4 as far as wins goes. But again, dig a little bit deeper. They were trying this horse 2 turns, going a mile 16th on the synthetic. They tried out 7 furlongs. Clearly, this horse is a sprinter and has been doing the best running sprinting the last couple. So with the pace dynamic in here, I think Silent Poet should be on the lead or close to it. We'll see what's interesting, because I believe that the speed of the speed may be the 1, Super Stone, who's the horse that you like in here as well. But Silent Poet to me on top, Pink Lloyd in the second spot, but again, is a win machine, so would not be shocked at all. To me, I was just looking for a little bit more value because Pink Lloyd, even though it's 7 to 5 in the morning line, I don't think that's going to hold up. It'll probably be 3 to 5 around post time. And then 2 in the third spot, Ride a Comet. That's the other one coming to this form. Was coming off a 2-year layoff, which you thought maybe he ends up running a quick 121-1 for 7 furlongs over the synthetic up at Woodbine and won that race quite easily. The bounce theory's in play, but runs back to that or improves off it. Clearly a player in here. So 4, 7, 2, and 5. But again, it all runs through Pink Lloyd in here.
And we mentioned, a couple of Cassie horses in there. Congratulations to Mark Tassie. Career victory number 3,000 on Thursday. So got through that milestone. The golf stream on. All right, let's take a look at yet another stake card on Saturday. The Bessarabian Grade 2 event. There is $175,000 up for grabs for the fillies and mares going 7 furlongs. And I know, Mike, we may have similar thoughts here, so I'll let you talk about the replay we pulled up.
Yeah, so we're both on the Amalfi Coast bandwagon here. I have it 5, 3, 4, and 2. And we're going to see the stakes race last time out that Amalfi Coast was able to win at 10 to 1 that day. That's the Sweetbriar 2 stakes up at Woodbine. It was going 6.5 over their synthetic course. And when we do bring up that replay, you're going to see that Amalfi Coast ended up sitting a perfect trip as the 7 just tucked in behind the leader is going to angle down towards the rail. That is Justin Stein, who's one of the leading jocks up there. And this horse levels off and finishes up strongly. I love this performance. I know maybe some people said, well, it was the perfect trip. A couple of them went at it early, but he did it the right way, or she did, excuse me, and I think she's going to be able to validate that. She's going to be the better price than a couple alternatives in here. But for me, I want the 2 horses coming out of there, the first and second place finishers, Amalfi Coast, who we just saw win the race, and Painting. Painting was sitting right next to Amalfi Coast at the top of the stretch and just ended up lacking room when Amalfi Coast was able to find room, and that ultimately ended up being the difference in the race. But Painting, to me, ended up running a really good race to finish third that day. And it was a horse that I want to use in this spot as well. And then the 4, Artie's Princess, who's another one coming off of a very, very good performance back in up at Woodbine, won that race by 3 3/4. But again, I always try to figure out, Justin Stein had to either ride Artie's Princess or Amalfi's Coast. He ended up choosing Amalfi's Coast. So that's ultimately where I ended up leading in that direction. But again, another one that's right in the mix, and is 4 for 5 up at Woodbine over the course, and is 8 to 1 9 with Camara aboard. So one you may want to use a little bit of a long shot in here. I have it 5, 3, 4, and 2.
Yeah, I'm Artie's Princess is one that I went back and forth. I think it's a fun race. I have it 5, 6, 1, and 3. I put Amalfi Coast on top, and while you were talking, I looked it up because I was just curious. Justin Stein was the leading jockey earlier in the meet. And I was just curious where he stood right now. He still is number 1 over Rafael Hernandez, but it's a 2-win lead. So nice little battle. They're well ahead of the third place runner. Kimura has 78, so they're well ahead. But the last few weeks of Woodbine will be a nice battle between those 2 jockeys. 2 wins apart from each other with Stein in the lead. So he's on board Amalfi Coast. I agree with everything you said. Coming out of that win last time looks pretty good. I thought Jakarta at 6 to 1. And again, I pointed to some long shots in the last few races, but if my morning line holds up here, I have 7 to 2 and a 6 to 1. Lots of early speed. Mike Maker brings this one up from a stakes try at Keeneland last time. I just thought that scenario was interesting. That Mike Maker looked in the condition book and said, yeah, let's go up and let's try the stake up at Woodbine with a horse with a lot of early speed. Super Escape from Trombetta, as you say, finished behind Malthus last time, and Painting ran third. So I'm 5, 6, 1, and 3. But as I say, Artie's Princess, I agree. I mean, Wesley Ward, that nice workout leading into this, very, very dangerous in here, but a fun race. And I also wanted to mention, we said there are a couple other stakes on the card. The Ontario Damsel, Curlin's Voyage is in there. She had tried the Queen's Plate against the boys earlier this year for Josie Carroll, but the Ontario Derby this is a fun race. Belichick, who comes out of the win in the Breeders' Futurity for Josie Carroll, and Mighty Heart, who was trying for the Canadian Triple Crown last time. I'm going with him again to get back on track.
I didn't take a look at that race because it wasn't on the stakes preview, but you already know the personal story of me having Belichick in that pick 4 that I had, so I'll be rooting again for Belichick. What's the morning line for?
I don't have the line. I printed it
okay.
up before the line,
Okay.
so I do not know the line, but it's going to be interesting to watch a fun little.
And Mighty Heart is
edition.
clearly better than the performance last time out. Remember?
Yeah, and I think the distance
the horse that ended up giving Mighty Heart's fits at the front end, softened the horse up. It was a new surface. You know, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out now because I think it'll be an even playing field.
So fun afternoon of stakes action at Woodbine on Saturday. Also Saturday, they have the Native Diver out at Del Mar as well. Short field, mid-court is in there. Combatant, a horse I've liked throughout the career. So again, a field of 5 scheduled in the Native Diver race 2 at Del Mar on Saturday. So there it is, stakes preview for this upcoming Saturday, November 21st.
Yeah, and look out on YouTube. Obviously, you can find us on YouTube, Capital OTB YouTube page. Every Friday at noon, this will be posted, and then obviously OTB TV every Saturday morning as well. We'll kind of do a weekly basis. You know, we're a couple weeks away from the Cigar, so that's a really good event to look forward to in December. But again, a lot of great racing. Yeah, even though it's our light period, you know, we'll still be able to find some winners hopefully and make some money throughout the weekends.
That is what it's all about. So we'll wrap it up for this time. Seth Merrow, Mike Callahan, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again next time.
You're watching Capital OTB TV. Wager at CapitalOTBBet.com for the most comprehensive wagering site and the best player rewards in New York State.